Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be talking about something that's been making headlines left and right.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence, or AI.
Yeah. Definitely seems like it's everywhere these days.
Especially how fast it's all developing.
Mm.
It's honestly pretty mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
So to guide our deep dive today,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be taking a look at this article titled, "The Curve is Still Getting Steeper."
Ooh, that title alone.
Right.
That's intriguing.
So the big question we're going to be exploring together is AI development actually accelerating?
Okay.
What does that mean for, the future?
Yeah, definitely a fascinating topic. I think the idea that it might be speeding up is something that everyone's kind of wondering about, like researchers, the general public, everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, the article talks about how people initially expected AI's progress to slow down as it kind of reached the limits of, what it could do.
Mm-hmm.
They predicted it would be like a sigmoid curve.
Ah, yes, the sigmoid curve. It's the good starting point.
Okay.
Basically, it's this S-shaped curve.
Okay. And it represents how things often grow.
Okay.
You can kind of think of it like learning a new language.
Yeah.
You make really rapid progress at first,
Yeah.
and then things start to level off as you master the basics.
Gotcha.
So the thinking was that AI would kind of follow that same path.
Yeah, okay, so sigmoid curve, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But the article is saying that we're not seeing that slow down at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's like AI just keeps getting more powerful faster. And it even uses the word superintelligence,
Ooh.
which I have to say makes me think of like sci-fi movies a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, superintelligence definitely sounds dramatic, right?
Yeah.
But I guess what it really refers to is this idea that AI might one day surpass human capabilities.
Oh, wow.
And not just in like specific tasks, but in, its overall ability to learn and reason and solve problems in ways that we can't even imagine right now.
That's a pretty wild thought.
It is.
But okay, before we go too far down that road, I have to admit something.
Okay.
One part of this whole acceleration thing is really tripping me up. Okay, what's that?
We've been feeding AI tons and tons of data, right? Pretty much the entire internet at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
So where does it even go from there? Like if data is the fuel for AI,
Right.
are we about to hit an empty tank?
Okay, well, that's where things get really interesting. The article highlights the emergence of what's called synthetic data.
Synthetic.
Basically, AI is now starting to create its own training data.
Hold on. AI can just create data now. I'm having a hard time picturing what that even looks like.
Okay, so imagine a student who's not only read like every textbook in the library, but can now write their own textbooks that are even better than the ones that they studied from.
Okay.
That's kind of what's happening with AI and synthetic data.
So it's like AI is bootstrapping itself.
Yeah.
Using its knowledge to create even more knowledge.
Exactly. And this whole self-generating data loop is one of the factors that's driving AI's rapid progress.
Huh.
There are even these rumors that OpenAI, the folks behind ChatGPT,
Right.
are like super heavily invested in this area, and that they're using AI to generate this incredibly high quality data that's even better than what's available in the real world.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so AI can create its own data now,
Mm-hmm.
and that data is potentially even better than what we can give it as humans.
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Okay, so the article also talks about another pretty big shift in AI.
Hmm.
It's not just mimicking anymore.
Yeah.
It's starting to actually reason things out on its own.
That's another key point, right? It's moving beyond simply recognizing patterns and mimicking what we do. It's showing signs of what's called emergent reasoning,
Emergent reasoning.
where it can actually solve problems in ways that weren't specifically programmed into it.
Okay, can you give me an example of what that looks
Okay.
like in practice?
Sure. So the article mentions this example where an AI was tasked with designing like a new type of antenna.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is it came up with this design that was completely different from anything that humans had ever created before.
Wow.
But it worked amazingly well. That's a sign that AI is starting to think outside the box, you know?
So it's not just following instructions anymore.
Right.
It's coming up with its own solutions.
Yeah.
That's pretty remarkable. Okay, so where does all of this lead? If AI can reason now, what's the next step?
Okay, well, this is where things get even more interesting. The article highlights this concept of recursive research.
Recursive research.
The idea that AI tools can be used to actually develop and improve AI itself.
Wait, so you're telling me AI is building AI now?
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy thought,
How
right?
wild.
It's like this self-sustaining cycle of improvement where every new generation of AI is better at improving AI than the last one. The article uses the analogy of a nuclear reaction.
Okay.
Once you hit a certain critical mass, the process becomes self-perpetuating.
Oh, wow. Okay, I think I'm starting to see where this is going. We've got AI generating its own data, reasoning things out, and even helping to build itself. It all seems a bit unstoppable, doesn't it?
It definitely is a rapid pace of development, and it makes you wonder, are there any limits to all of this?
Right. That's what I was thinking. If AI is this powerful, what's to stop it from just, taking over?
Hmm.
I know it sounds like something out of a movie, but I'm curious if the article touches on any potential limits to this whole AI explosion.
Yeah, it does. One of the first things it points out is that AI, for all of its advancements, still faces some very real constraints.
Okay, like what could possibly hold back something as powerful as AI?
Well, one of the biggest limitations is actually pretty basic: computing power.
Hmm.
These massive AI models require an incredible amount of processing power, and that translates to a huge energy demand.
Yeah.
We're talking like massive server farms that are consuming enormous amounts of electricity.
So are you saying that we're hitting the limits of what our current technology can even handle?
In a way, yeah. The article actually mentions this fascinating comparison. The human brain uses only about 20 watts of energy,
Wow.
less than a light bulb.
That's crazy.
Now compare that to the megawatts needed to power some of these AI systems.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
It is. So even with all this talk about superintelligence, there are still these very real-world limitations.
Okay, so what about the limits of intelligence itself? Is there a point where AI just can't get any smarter?
That's a question that people have been debating for a long time.
Yeah.
The article even mentions something called Gödel's incompleteness theorem.
Okay, you lost me there. Could you break that down for me? What is that theorem, and what does it have to do with AI?
Okay, so Gödel's incompleteness theorem is a very complex mathematical concept.
Okay.
But to put it very simply, it suggests that there are inherent limits to any system of logic.
Okay.
There will always be some problems that are simply unsolvable, even for the most advanced system.
So even with all this talk about superintelligence, there might be a ceiling that AI just can't break through.
It's a possibility.
It's actually kind of reassuring in a weird way.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
And that brings us to another key takeaway from the article: the need for speed.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What does speed have to do with all of this?
Well, if we look at the big picture, AI development is becoming increasingly competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Every major tech company is racing to build the fastest and the most efficient AI.
So it's not just about making AI smarter anymore.
Right.
It's about making it faster.
Exactly. Think of it like a Formula One race.
Okay.
Everyone has a powerful engine, but it's the team that can optimize for speed and efficiency that ultimately wins.
That's a great analogy.
Mm-hmm.
So how does this speed race play out in the real world? What does it look like for those of us who aren't, building AI systems?
That's where things get even more fascinating. The article dives into some of the specific tools and techniques being used in this race for AI speed. It's pretty mind-blowing stuff, and it has implications for everything from scientific research to the apps we use on our phones.
This is all incredibly interesting, but I think we need to pause here for a moment. We'll come back and continue to unpack this fascinating topic of AI acceleration and explore what it means for the future. See you in a bit. Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about how the world of AI development is turning into this speed race.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of trying to grasp how that plays out in the real world.
Oh, you can actually see it happening right now, like in research labs all over the world. The article specifically mentions tools like GPT-4, DeepSeek R1, and Notebook LM.
Okay.
These aren't just theoretical models.
Right.
These are AI systems that are actively being used by scientists to push the boundaries of what's possible.
So it's like AI is being used to turbocharge scientific discovery.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. These AI tools are being used to improve and develop AI itself.
Oh.
It's like a positive feedback loop on a massive scale.
It's almost like AI is becoming self-aware,
Yeah.
using its own intelligence to become even more intelligent. It's a bit mind-boggling when you really think about it.
It really highlights the key takeaway from the article, right? This
Yeah.
constant improvement loop, this acceleration, it's what makes AI such a powerful force, and potentially a force that's difficult to predict or control.
Yeah, it makes sense. We've talked about superintelligence,
Mm-hmm.
the limits of computing power, this race for speed.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process,
Yeah.
but how does all of this actually impact our lives?
That's a question we all need to be asking. This isn't some far-off science fiction scenario. AI is already transforming industries,
Yeah.
automating tasks all around us.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the personalized recommendations you get on streaming services.
Oh, yeah.
Or the voice assistants we use in our homes.
Uh-huh.
Those are all powered by AI.
Right.
And they're only getting more sophisticated.
Right. AI is already part of our everyday lives, even if we don't always realize it. But knowing that it's developing at this incredible pace, it makes you wonder what the future holds. What kind of world are we creating here?
Yeah, the article doesn't shy away from the big questions.
Yeah.
It talks about the potential benefits of AI, like solving complex problems, improving healthcare, maybe even helping us tackle climate change.
Oh, sounds amazing. But I have to admit, I can't help but think about the potential downsides, too.
Yeah, I get that.
We've all seen those movies where the machines take over.
Right, right. It's a common fear.
Yeah.
And while Hollywood might exaggerate things a bit, it's not something we should dismiss entirely.
Okay.
But I think the real risks we face with AI today are often more nuanced.
Okay, so what are the real risks that we should be thinking about?
Well, things like job displacement are a big concern. As AI becomes more capable, it's likely to automate a lot of jobs that are currently done by humans.
Right.
We also have to worry about things like algorithmic bias.
Oh, yeah.
AI systems are trained on data, and if that data reflects existing biases in society, those biases can be amplified by the algorithms.
So we're not just talking about rogue robots taking over the world.
Right.
It's more about the unintended consequences of AI. The ways it could potentially disrupt our lives and make existing inequalities even worse.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial to have these open and honest conversations about the ethical implications of AI.
Yeah.
It's not just up to scientists and engineers to figure this out. It's something we all need to be thinking about and engaging with.
You're right. We can't just sit back and let the technology develop without considering the consequences.
Yeah.
We need to be active participants in shaping the future of AI.
Absolutely. We need to ask tough questions, demand transparency from developers, and advocate for responsible use of this powerful technology.
I'm glad the article brings up these ethical considerations.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Right.
It's really up to us to decide how we want to shape its development
Yeah.
and ultimately how it impacts our world.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And as AI continues to evolve at this accelerating pace, that conversation becomes even more urgent.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But I want to circle back to something that's been on my mind since we started talking.
And we talked about the limits of computing power.
Yeah.
But what about the limits of intelligence itself? Is there a point where AI just can't get any smarter?
Yeah.
I know the article mentioned Gödel's incompleteness theorem, but I'm still not quite sure I understand how that applies to AI.
Okay. It is a complex idea.
Yeah.
But in essence, it shows that any formal system of logic,
Okay.
no matter how advanced,
Yeah.
will always have certain limitations. There will always be questions it can't answer and problems it can't solve.
So even with all this talk of superintelligence, there might be a fundamental ceiling
Yeah.
to what AI can achieve.
It's a possibility. And it highlights just how much we still don't know about the nature of intelligence itself, both human and artificial.
Yeah.
But even if there is a limit, we're likely a long way from reaching it. Well, that's definitely something to ponder. But for now, I think we need to take another break. When we come back, we'll delve even deeper into the potential implications of AI acceleration and try to answer that big question, what does it all mean for the future?
Okay. Sounds good.
And we're back. Ready to wrap up our deep dive into accelerating AI. Before the break, we were talking about some pretty heavy stuff like the limits of intelligence and the potential impact of AI on society.
Definitely.
Feels like we're right on the edge of something huge here.
It does. What's really remarkable is that this acceleration isn't just about, faster computers or bigger data sets.
Right.
It's like a fundamental shift in how AI is learning and evolving.
You keep mentioning this shift. Can you unpack that a little bit more for me?
Okay, sure. So for a long time, we've relied on training AI with these static data sets, feeding it information and kind of hoping it could pick out the right patterns.
Right.
Think of it like giving a student a giant stack of textbooks and saying, okay, figure it out. But now AI is starting to interact with the world in this much more dynamic and fluid way.
So it's not just passively absorbing information anymore.
Right.
It's actively engaging with its environment and learning through experience.
Exactly. It's becoming more like a scientist,
Right.
constantly experimenting, refining its understanding of the world.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
This idea of AI as like an active learner is really interesting. Can you
Yeah.
give me a concrete example of what that actually looks like?
Sure. One of the most exciting areas is reinforcement learning.
Okay.
This is where AI agents learn through trial and error,
Okay.
much like how we learn through experience.
Gotcha.
Think about self-driving cars.
Okay.
They're not just programmed with a set of rules,
Yeah. Yeah.
They actually learn to navigate the world by driving around, making mistakes, and adjusting their behavior based on the feedback.
So they're constantly improving based on real-world experience.
Exactly. And we're seeing this approach being used in everything from robotics to game playing. There are even AI systems that can now play complex games like Go or StarCraft at a superhuman level.
It's amazing to think that AI is learning and adapting so quickly. But this brings us back to the big question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If AI is becoming this capable, what does it mean for the future? How will it impact our lives, our jobs, our world?
Those are the questions we all need to be grappling with. And while this article doesn't really offer any easy answers, it does emphasize the need for proactive thought and discussion. This isn't something we can just ignore and hope it all works out.
You're right. We can't just bury our heads in the sand and pretend this isn't happening.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I feel a little overwhelmed by it all. I'm not an AI expert, so what can I do to make sure I'm staying informed and, engaging with these important conversations?
That's a great question. One of the most important things you can do is simply stay informed.
Yeah.
Read articles, follow experts,
Yeah.
engage in those conversations about the ethical and societal implications of AI. The more you understand about this technology, the better equipped you'll be to actually participate in shaping its future.
So they're saying knowledge is power.
Yeah.
The more we know about AI, the more power we have to ensure that it's used for good.
Exactly. And
Right.
don't be afraid to ask questions, even if they seem basic or naive.
Right.
We're all learning here, and even the experts don't have all the answers.
Okay, that's good advice.
Oh.
So read, learn, ask questions. Don't be afraid to speak up. It sounds like the future of AI is not something that's going to be decided in, some secret lab.
Right.
It's a conversation that we all need to be a part of.
I completely agree. The trajectory of AI is not predetermined. It's a path we're forging together through our choices, our values, and our collective vision for the future.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
The future of AI is not set in stone. We have a role to play in shaping it. So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave our listeners with this final thought. The article we explored today really focused on the incredible speed of AI development. But maybe the even bigger question isn't how fast AI is evolving, but rather in what direction.
That's a good point.
And that, my friends, is something we all need to consider.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of AI. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those minds engaged. The future depends on it.